Um, well, here comes some more people. Uh, Welcome to the October Coffee and Collaboration. I'm very excited to have Leah Mindemann with us from Bach and Associates. Before we get started with Leah's presentation, though, Stacy Fox has a couple of updates from LPC.
Yes, thank you so much. It's good to see everybody here today. So thanks for jumping on. We do have a couple of things coming up, a couple of deadlines. We are currently accepting entries for our People's Choice Photography contest right now. So October 31st is the deadline to get those entries in, and then we will do voting in the first week of November for picking our People's Choice. So we did open that up to non-members this year. So if you have any friends that are into photography, non-members are able to participate at a little bit higher rate. If you're an LPC member, you do get that better, that discounted entry rate. But we got some great prizes in 4 different categories of livestock people, general, and scenic. So there's a category for everyone on that. So I would love to have you participate. All of this information is on our website. I'll drop the link in the chat. We also have a couple of deadlines for our major awards coming up at the end of October 31st. So the Headliner Award and the Hall of Fame induction. So the Headliner Award is someone within that has made an impact on the livestock publishing industry, but not necessarily an LPC member. Our Hall of Fame inductee would be someone who's been very involved in LPC. And so all of that information can be found on the website too, and I'll drop that in there too. We do have our date for our CattleCon luncheon during I'm still learning to call it CattleCon at the NCBA convention, but CattleCon, we are going to be February 4th at 11:15 or 11:45 in the morning. I'm sorry, and so we'll start pushing out tickets for that very soon. So we hope that you can join us there. And again, just thank you all. You will be receiving information soon on membership. We're coming on the end of the year with membership renewals and things like that. So keep an eye out for that. But please let us know if you need anything, and I will turn it back over to Rachel. But thank you all for being here today.
Yes. Like Stacey said, thank you for being here. I'm Rachel Waggy. I work for the Kansas Livestock Association, so I'm here in Topeka. I am not Jennifer Scheich, obviously. I have taken Jennifer's spot as co-chair of the Education Committee. And so I lead this coffee and collaboration effort alongside Angie Denton. And we're excited to have you today and joined by Leah Mindemann if you've just joined the Zoom. So Leah is vice president of Bach and Associates, where she's spent the past 18 years representing leading agricultural publishers. She works with Farm Journal and Lee AgriMedia right now, helping connect brands with farmers and ranchers across the country. She graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Madison with a degree in Ag Econ and began her career with Land O'Lakes before joining Bach and Associates. Leah and her husband Andy have 3 children, Maggie, Gabe, and Paige, and they raise Angus cattle on their family farm. Leah is passionate about production agriculture, inspiring others to discover their own purpose and building meaningful connections within the ag community. So, if you would please welcome Leah and let us, not let us, but if you would send comments, be interactive. She really would like to engage with you all as part of her presentation. So please send messages in the chat or pop on and ask a question if you would like to do so. So, Leah, now I'll turn it over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Rachel. Hello, everybody. Excited to be here. Appreciate the invitation. I was telling Stacy and Rachel that I did this pre-COVID once with one of our editors at Farm Journal as well. So happy to be back. Love LPC. I try to make it to the luncheon during CattleCon myself, and just think that this is an awesome group of people that are so well networked and really enjoy any time that I get to spend with you all. So thanks for asking me today. The topic that they asked me to speak on is basically just building relationships from a sales perspective and how to make those relationships last. So I definitely added the grit part of the title there because I think anybody that is in this business understands a lot about that side of it too. Um, there we go. Hopefully, thumbs up. Is my screen changing when I'm great? Excellent. As she mentioned, please do put messages, comments in the chat. You are right now that I am sharing full screen, Rachel. I don't really see those, so if something comes up that's there, please share. And I will say, before we even dig into the agenda, I would love for each of you to put a note into the chat about what it was about today's topic that made it so that you're like, yep, I'm going to take an hour of my day to be here because I want to make sure that it's useful to you and I answer any questions that you know you have or things that you're interested in, and we'll go from there. So don't be shy. Interrupt me at any time. I'm looking forward to it. A couple of the high points that we'll touch on. This isn't going to be crazy long, and I promise there'll be no quiz at the end. But if there is something that stands out to you or you have a story to share and relate to it, again, chime in. Picture just simply because of pride. That's my crew there on the right. Andy and I have been married for 23 years, and we've got Maggie, who's a freshman at Western Illinois, going for ag business. Gabe is a junior here at Jefferson High School, and basically the barn general telling Andy and I what we do wrong now these days. And Paige is our bambino. She is just the perfect caboose to our family. Oddly enough, an animal whisperer, but not really into the show side of all the things that her older siblings and her parents do. So she's a theater junkie and incredibly artistic kid and keeps us on our toes as well. So we're going to kick it off with why relationships matter. I think hopefully you all see the very first bullet point and you hear the music playing ahead. Unlike any other business, the ag industry is one that a lot of us grow up in. I certainly did. I'm lucky enough to be a fifth generation beef kid from Minnesota. And it is insane to me, even my first job out of college, working for Land O'Lakes selling Purina horse feed. I couldn't believe going to those events, how many people I knew. And it's a small world, and ag is especially small. And so the very first thing that I ever tell anybody who's coming into the business is if if you're going to burn a bridge, this is not the place to do it because you're the way that you see people again and again and again, and they pop up here and there is really how, the way it works. And that can either be a terrible thing or the most incredible blessing. And in ag, for the most part, it's been an incredible blessing for me for sure. But it is definitely a small world. And because of those connections that you can build, they can really be helpful for a long time. Certainly, when it comes to sales, people say you buy from people, right? It sure doesn't hurt to be representing like an incredible product and have the great things. But at the end of the day, we buy from people that we know, and then we have to like them. And ultimately, the holy grail is once you start to trust people. And I think once you reach that level of trust with someone, that's really the game changer because they start to come to you for insights well beyond what it is that you have to offer and sell. So transactions follow trust. It's not the other way around. And you can try to force it that way, but it just doesn't work. And that's just human nature. And then certainly, I would say relationships that you're building are going to outlast the immediate product launch, the budget of 2025, the job title that that person has today. And because it's a small world, those are the things that kind of churn and can help be long-term factors when it comes to sales in the ag industry particularly. I think building a solid foundation of any relationship is this is probably applicable everywhere, but when it comes to selling, I have done this a while now, which is crazy because in my head I'm still young. But I think the authenticity that you can bring to it is So important. And from my perspective, it's, hey, I can tell you about the cattle business because that's what I've grown up in. But I also was on a call this morning with a gal who has never, ever been probably on a farm, but she's in charge of the global digital for her company. And boy, could she tell me about things that I don't know on that side of it. So, I don't need to fake that I know more about that than she does. But in ag, you can't fake what you do or don't know about agriculture. But the great thing about our community is we really, I think, are amazing about sharing information and welcoming people in and helping them to learn and understand. So if you aren't from ag, don't pretend to be. They'll sniff it out. But if you are, share that because the more opportunity that we have to help people understand production agriculture, the better it is for the few of those who are actually out in the barn doing it, in the fields, growing it. And it's critical. On this one, I like to say that always be curious, ask the questions. Like my little toddlers, my kids when they were little walking, why? Don't lose that. Being curious and having that kind of element is so important. And you'll see on the slide coming up here that I say, you should be doing far more listening in a sales meeting than talking. And that is you can follow that example with any small child. I'm guessing most of us are parents here, and it's so important to keep that curiosity. Tell me why. Why do you do that? What is it? What is this going to help? And by understanding that, it allows you to put a better package together for whatever it is that you're proposing. And then lastly, that consistent presence, so important. Don't just be there when it's RFP time. Don't just be there on sale day. It makes such a difference all the time because then they come to you when there is a problem and an opportunity. Any questions? Anybody have anything stand out so far? Everybody's being so shy. Oh, wait, here, I'm going to look at the comments quick. Ah, not making it feel salesy, so sure. Excellent. Yes, channeling your toddler. Absolutely. Perfect. Okay. So with this, there are definitely, I think, some please do's and some please don'ts. So these are some of the don'ts that I would say. And again, I'm happy to have anybody else who's in this biz add on. But the taking a buy for granted is so critical. Just because they placed an order with me last year doesn't mean that I'm a part of the buy this year. And I think that oftentimes we can kind of take that for granted. Hang on one second, I'm plugging in before I lose my power, you guys. Should have looked at that ahead of time. So you don't ever want to take a buy for granted because again, people are going to buy from people they like, and boy, it's sure good to be appreciated when you're helping somebody else out, but also for the value that they're bringing to the table, and you don't want to get lazy or lackadaisical about that. Just because I have something to sell doesn't mean it's the right fit for my client. So square peg, round hole is something that I think a lot of people get in a trap of. What I want to do is be a problem solver for you, not for you to be a problem solver for me. And that's something that's really important to remember. Don't disappear after it's sold. Now, no longer my problem. Certainly, I think that that's kind of a natural one on that one. Do not trash your competitors. A lot of my main competition is made up of some of my very good friends. And if they're not my good friends, odds are somebody I'm selling to knows them well. And again, it goes back to this being a small industry. And so I always try to talk more about how I can be of help to them than how it's a detriment to go a different direction with someone else. And always better to surprise and delight in a positive way than overpromise and underdeliver. So then, get my chat out of the way. Um, and the things that we want to do more of, this goes back to you should be doing a lot more listening than talking. So ask the question and then let the people answer. Because if you can get comfortable with a little bit of silence, they will often tell you what the problem is that they're trying to fill, solve, even if, or they might come to realize they're not quite sure, which is some of the best opportunities then. I always, always, always try to come to every single meeting with something that is helpful to them. Angie Denton's on the call today. She's our editor at Drovers, one of the publications I get to represent. And she's putting content out there and talking to people in the field every single day. So I'm always in touch with our editorial team, reading the content that they're putting out, making sure that I'm taking note of things that are applicable to the clients that I'm going to be calling on so that I can bring something so that whether they buy something from me today or not, they leave feeling like they got definitely a useful piece of information out of our time. I think being humble just in general is a good thing. You have to have a fairly good sense of confidence to be in sales, but there's certainly a difference between that confidence and arrogance. And it's a good thing for all of us to remember to be humble. It is a tough industry to be in. Sales is not for the faint of heart. But when you get the good win, my dad would always say, act like you won before. And so I think that that's also an important thing. And lastly, just because it wasn't a sale today doesn't mean it will stay that way forever. So continue to bring value to your clients and be back in front of them, be present, because I have some accounts today that are my very best that I called on for a long time before we got to move the needle or before the needle moved very much. And as your skill set grows, their budgets might grow as well. And so stick around because that's when things can really become fruitful. For me, there's a few golden rules of selling in agriculture. It is a tough business, and a lot of the people that I call on in particular have so much on their plates, and I think most everybody can relate to that. And so, bringing energy, be a positive. Everyone enjoys being with someone who's more optimistic, glass half full, than those who are glass half empty and can tell you about how tough corn is and tell you about how we might be bringing cattle in from Argentina and can tell you about how the weather didn't go their way this week. What they want to hear about is the bright side of things. And so remember that as you go in. Follow back up with them after you've walked out. Absolutely, if I have a theme, it's you better be having fun with what you're doing because we all spend way too much time working to not have fun doing it. So bring some fun to everything that you can because it's a huge part of the time that you spent, and time is certainly our most precious commodity. Showing up, being in front of people, meeting a person in person for the first time when you are calling on them can then help meetings transpire to be so much more useful over a Zoom or something like that afterward. And so I think that that's absolutely critical to get some face time with folks, make the most out of your time at a trade show or a cattle con kind of industry. And then I always am of the perspective that I'm trying to help them with their problem, not just sell some to someone. And I think if you keep that in mind, it certainly helps as well. This is a picture of Andy, my husband, hosting a group from an agency that came where, you know, invest in them, get to know them, help them. And did I sell anything that day? No. But now I'm on the list of people that they can call when they have the quote unquote dumb question. And if you can work your way into that space with your customers, you are starting to learn well beyond what they need today and mostly what they're working on that's keeping them up, what their challenges are. And I think really at the end of the day, as a solutions provider, that is where the rubber meets the road in a sales career. Networking within accounts is vital because people change seats. It's very important that if your main contact goes away, you know the next person to call or find out who is filling it. And I always try to come to the meeting of genuinely, I'm a people person. People are my passion. So I want to know, like, hey, how was your weekend? I make notes in a lot of my things about their children, their interests, what have you. One, it is a great point of common interest. So, it would start off the call, Stacy, tell me you're in Texas. Okay, what part? How do you know these folks? Some of that kind of stuff, just because, again, I'm very interested in knowing that, but also it makes them feel at ease and like they're important to you beyond just what are you talking about in today with a dollar sign on it. And I feel like I kind of flew through this because everybody was so chatty. But this is my contact information. I would love to connect if I don't know you. And hopefully, if I do, and I love all the familiar faces on here today, thank you so much. Keep my number, use and abuse it often because time on the phone is yeah, one of my favorite things to do, particularly when I've got a lot of windshield time. And most importantly, thank you for being an awesome part of the ag industry. I'm raising the sixth generation, and I want to make sure everybody who's involved in this business is happy about being here because there's fewer and fewer of us all the time. Rachel, you're on mute.
Okay, let's try that again. Thank you so much for that. We have a few questions in the chat. Casey asked how often you follow up with clients, and does that change whether you made a sale or not?
Yeah, it depends is the answer. So how often do I follow up um, yeah, it varies wildly. But if I have been at I just got home late last night from 2 days on the road. Now, my goal will be that before the end of this week, they have a follow-up note from me. But they all already have a text in their phone from me saying, "Hey, thanks for your time today. Look forward to following up with you. Watch for a note from me in the next couple of days." That kind of thing is critical. One, because I'm on the road a lot, it's helpful for my customers to know that I'm going to communicate with you via cell and or mobile messaging, what have you. You should not be afraid to do that for me. Um, and also, I think it raises the level of relationship to a different caliber when you're sending a message right to the palm of their hand, their pants pocket, that like, hey, it's just a different means of communication versus an email.
Rick asked if you would expand on the importance of being a space where dumb questions can be asked.
Oh, sure. So, I call on a lot of ad agencies. There are so few people at ad agencies, even the agricultural ones, who really understand what, like, Lori Maud, Lori, I see you laughing. Um,
Because I
the
know my
amount of,
coworkers.
yep, and they're pretty good. You'd be surprised. And so it is increasingly common that I sit down in a meeting with someone who has been at an agency 10 plus years, but they are maybe a consumer agency or have been brought in for their marketing expertise, but have absolutely no idea how if a cow has a bull or a heifer, then where in the world do these steers come from? Like, okay, let's talk about that. And if you can start getting them to think of you for those things again, then when they walk out of a meeting or they're even in a client meeting, they can start pinging you and saying, like, hey, so they're saying that they want to get this done. Do you have ideas on that we can chat about? Yep. And so, and again, I think it goes back to your authenticity as well. So I don't just want them to buy something from me. I truly want for those gals, oftentimes, right, who are soccer moms that are in the city and having coffee clutch with their girlfriends, to be able to have a point of relevance when someone brings up that meatless Mondays are the best way to go. Like, I want them to legitimately be able to stand there and help express why there's a valid counterpoint to that in a meaningful way. And if you can convey and get to that level, it's a win for the ag industry, which at the end of the day is my real goal.
Thank you.
Absolutely. But there are some doozers of questions that get asked. It is worth a good chuckle over dinner at night with the kids, for sure.
We can all think of those questions too.
My daughter got asked at the state fair a couple of years ago, how long it was before the bacon grew back on the pig. Because when he was playing Farmville, the pig gets grayed out for a while. So at what point is that in real life that the pig comes back and has more bacon? And she said, Mom, this guy was pushing a stroller. It's real.
That's funny.
Or scary, one of the two, right?
Both.
Yeah. Any special ideas for selling advertisements? Olivia, I don't know you. I look forward to meeting you, Olivia. I would say, yeah, so it's a great time to be in the cattle business, which is lovely. But what do they need to know? From my perspective, the most important thing before anybody puts any money into advertising is one, who is that going to? Who is going to see it? And you want to make sure that they understand that it's going to the right person. And so, which means you need to understand who their end game is and who are they trying to reach. And if I can help you more with that, by all means, we should reach out for sure.
Karen asked what motivates you to get out of the selling slump. She says, I'm sure you have days when you don't want to sell, but you need to. And I think we can probably all relate to that in some facet.
Yeah, for sure. I will tell you this, Karen. I am wired to be a salesperson. And my kids make fun of me all the time about, like, there's a insurance company commercials where they make fun of hey, they're all in the elevator and they're like, nope, there's no reason to meet these people. You're never going to see them again. That's me. That's me. That's just who I am. And they're like, geez, Louise, Mom, I think they followed you around for a while to make these ads. Are there days when I don't like parts of my job? Yes. But there's a lot more, like, again, I do this for the people. I also believe if you don't love it, you should really think about, like, what do you love and go do that. I sincerely believe that because selling is, you get told no way more than you get told yes. And you have to be able to endure that in order to have any kind of runway in this gig. And so if that is like uncomfortable, not fun for you, that would be something to consider. But also, I would say I have been associated with outstanding publications, people, outlets through my career. And by all means, that is important. And so that's, I guess, how I would say part of it is just kind of knowing what does fire you up and then making sure, you know, rising water floats all boats. So I like run with people that like are doing good work and it's easier to sell. Does that make sense, Karen? I see you're off camera now. If that's not, if you had a different angle to that, I'm happy to hear it.
No, it does. I mean, but there are just days where it's like, crap, this just is not working, you know?
For
And
sure.
that's what, I mean, you got to have the grit to be able to get into sales. And be able to take the no, no, no and keep on pushing.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Thank you.
for sure. How important is it to attend professional development conferences, Susie? I would say I attend a lot of conferences. I attend most of them because my clients are there versus to do personal development. Um, that said, I have gone through sales training courses, and while it's rare for me to feel like, man, I've got this had this incredible epiphany, there is absolutely truth to saying it's easy to get rusty and fall into either some bad habits or forget about some of the game-changing things that are the like the edge of making a difference. And so, for me, again, people person, you know this about me. I think it's important for the networking aspect. Um, but if like, I mean, being a part of this group right here, so hopefully they're pulling together ideas every single month. And if you take one thing away from today, boy, probably worth the 30, 45 minutes that you spent.
So I have a question, and this is probably one of those dumb questions that this should be a safe space for, you and our 30 friends. Um, I'm not someone who I don't not involved in the selling process for my publication. So how do you identify new potential clients? Um,
Hmm.
yes. How do you
Prospecting.
sure.
Sure. Being active in the industry is the best way that it happens for me. Because my husband and I farm, a vast majority of the clients that I have are trying to target me. So I pay attention to what I'm seeing wherever we are, what's coming in our mailbox, um, those kinds of ways networking through the years. Many agency folks or those who are independents even will reach out and say, hey, I have a new client. I've got somebody who's coming online. Things so they start to help you hone your prospecting better. And then just again, a lot of the people that I know because I washed a heifer next to them when I was, growing up or whatever, and now they work for a company and I see on LinkedIn or on social media from just Facebook from personal connections are doing something new or different and then can, reach out to them that way. So it can be anything from just the social end of it to like actual like analysis tools of like seeing like, okay, who's spending someplace that isn't with me and what do we need to see or know about them to get a meeting?
Awesome. Thank you. I also was curious if you could talk about a little bit to the different relationships that you would have with your editors, like you were talking about working with Angie on Drovers versus your advertising clients.
Yeah, for sure. This goes back to the first time that I was here, and Mike Opperman and I talked about church and state of advertising, sales, and editorial coverage. Um, I struggle with this the most with my clients that are European based, where it's a lot of pay for play. But here in the States, as most people are aware, it's a lot more about pay to have your ad placed and earn your coverage in the article or the content. That said, those clients that I know I'm working with that are doing great things. A new product is launching, they have an incredible case study that they've completed, research that's done. There's a very like maybe heartfelt client of theirs, a producer who's used their product and has this compelling story to tell. I make darn sure that the appropriate editor knows about it. Because one thing that I would also say is I know that my editors are being pushed to get a lot of content out a lot of times. And so if I can be helpful to them on providing a legitimate lead, and coaching up the PR side of the folks that I'm working with on like, hey, I know that your job is to get this product out, but the way that it really resonates better with my editorial team is if you can include a producer angle and somebody that they can contact at that farm. Like, good. Because if they get a story lead from something that they teased up to us because they framed it that way, that too helps to you know, grease the wheel a little bit.
Great, thank you. We have just a few minutes left. If anyone has any questions for Leah that you would like to ask, now would be a great time to send it in the chat, or you can turn on your audio, whatever you would be comfortable doing. So I'll give you just a minute for that.
I've got a question. How do you, I know you work with several different species, and I know how do you balance some of that of like staying on top of what's going on in the pork industry versus the cattle industry, things like that? And then how do you kind of tailor that to your prospective clients that way?
Excellent. So the number one way that I do that is I get our daily newsletter. So I try to pay attention as best as I can to the information that our editors are kicking out every single day. I also try to make a point to have a good relationship where I'm checking in with each of them, maybe, once every couple weeks. Hey, how are you? What do you have cooking? What are you hearing about? How are you covering this? What's what's on your docket? Um, because then I can also get ahead of something. Like if they're like, man, if Angie says I'm really gonna have a whole series around BRD, okay, then I know that I'm gonna get to my clients and say, she's working on this. What do we got for her? How do we help? And then species to species, again, time. I mean, I didn't know anything about pigs when I came to work at Bach and Associates, and I know a whole lot about pig disease and health now, just from being in it and caring, finding out what I didn't know. I now know more about biologicals than I ever thought I would know because my crops clients, it's important to them to know. So then it's important to me so that I know what the heck they're talking about when they're telling me that they have to get things done. Is it easier for me to do that because it's also conversation over the dinner table? Yes. But there are also times when I'm just like, call up my brother-in-law who runs our crops and I say, okay, tell me what are we seeing a lot of white mold? Is this something that you've got? Like, give me an idea of what's going on here. So if I don't have time to read about it, when I've got windshield time, I call somebody who I think does. And a lot of times it's my editors, but sometimes it's just people in my social circle of also being farmers that I ask. Good question. And being curious, caring enough to be curious. I think that's what I would say. Everybody is all schooled up, Rachel. They're good.
I know, I think so. So that's pretty perfect timing. Again, we really appreciate you being here with us today, Leah. I know you're really busy, and really appreciate you taking this time to talk with us and really engage with us and answer our questions. I'm taking away a lot from this, and so I think everyone probably had one or two things they could take with them to make it worth their 40 minutes. So again, thank you for being here, and we will be in touch, everyone, on a future date time. And so we look forward to seeing you back here.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.